Hey, I want to give a huge shout out to Laurie-Ann Murabito because working with her has completely changed how I approach speaking. I'm not a stranger to public speaking at all. I've done plenty of it, but I've never worked with a speaking coach before. And let me tell you, the difference between going it alone and working with Laurie-Ann, night and day. She helped me develop my signature speech, and not only did it highlight my expertise and authority really well, but it converted 60% of my audience onto my email list. 60%. And did I mention, thanks to her, I landed my first paid speaking gig. Lorianne's signature speech framework made it so easy to put together a talk that opened with a bang, kept my audience engaged, and most importantly, made it effortless for them to take the next step with me. She is an absolute pleasure to work with. Super smart, really strategic, and honestly, just so much fun to be around. So, if you're on the fence about working with her, do it. You'll wonder why you waited so long. Thank you, Lorianne.
Hello, all my Be in Demand listeners. Have you ever wanted to do your business a little bit differently? Maybe even do a discovery call from a different angle? Well, today's guest is going to help you tap into the creativity of doing your business a little bit differently. Her and her business partner, which is her husband, went from being extremely broke and losing money all the way to an extremely profitable business. And she's going to talk more about this. And the funny thing is years ago, I read her book. So imagine my surprise when her assistant pitched me to be on Be in Demand. The name of her book is Badass Your Brand, The Impatient Entrepreneur's Guide to Turning Expertise into Profit. Today's guest is Pia Silva, and I feel like this is a full circle moment. And we touch on speaking as well, because her coach at the time told her it was a fabulous way to get clients. And you know how I feel about it. Speaking's the fastest way to grow your business. So if you're a coach, a consultant, or a service provider, you are in the right place, because this podcast is all about how to leverage speaking opportunities to get positioned as the expert and monetize your expertise. Let's get on to the interview. Pia, thank you so much for joining me. I remember getting your book, Badass Your Brand, years ago. And I don't even remember like how I got to know you, but I just really, really enjoyed just your casual style and your honesty, I will admit. But can you just like share with people like who you are and what you do?
Sure. Thank you so much. I love interacting with people who saw my book back when I published it in 2017 and like remember me. So nice to be here, Laurie-Ann. Yeah. So I wrote this book after I built an agency called Worst of All Design with my husband and partner, Steve. We had experienced all of the challenges of running a small agency and ended up in debt. And then we got out of it by implementing this intensives model. And so I wrote a book where I talked about that. And it was very successful. It gave me a really great lifestyle business. But because of the book, I had a lot of people who also had small branding agencies approach me and say, I loved your book, but I really want to learn how you did that in your business, how you run your business like that. So in 2021, I decided to actually all but shut down our agency, delete 10,000 people off my email list, and start a training program just for 1 to 2 person branding agencies to teach them our intensives model that I explain in the book. And so that's what I do almost full time now.
Okay, we're going to get back to that. I want to go back to that fateful Friday afternoon in March of 2014, because early in your book, in the introduction, you talk
Mhm.
about you had a meltdown. And I would love to hear a little bit more about the meltdown, what happened that weekend, because you made some major changes come that Monday.
Yeah, it was a huge low point in our business that we had been struggling in for a few years, just trying to figure out how you run a business. At that time, we had 2 full-time employees. We had this office studio that I'm recording in. We live in Brooklyn in New York City in a really expensive area. All of these things meant that we had very high overhead. So even though we had been pitching for a lot of big projects and getting some of them. We actually had generated almost $250,000 in the past 12 months. We were in debt. And we were at that point on that Friday night, we were completely maxed out. So we only had $40,000 in credit card credit available, and we had completely maxed it out. We had no money in the bank. We were getting overdraft fees put on top of our empty bank account. And the whole thing just felt like the weight of the world crushing me. And I had no idea what to do. I thought, this is the end. I'm going to have to go get a job, because the idea of switching my model or firing our employees and still continuing hadn't even occurred to me, really. I'm a all or nothing kind of thinker. And my very creative husband, he said, I don't think that's what that means. We're actually very good at what we do. The way we're doing it isn't working. So we realized we needed to, stop the bleeding. We let our 2 employees go that Monday. We gave them a week or 2 of severance. I remember that we didn't have. I think I borrowed it from somebody because I felt awful that I was letting them go. And then we looked at our business with really clear, honest eyes and said, what do we like about this? What do we not like about this? What's working? What's not working? And what we realized was the work was working. Our clients liked us. We did great work. It was how we were delivering it that was really sucking our souls. And that's when we decided to start doing this intensives model, where we would do projects in a much shorter time frame for a much lower price point. But we would get rid of all of that back and forth that was draining us. And that was the beginning of what we now do. At the time, we started doing 1-day intensives for $3,000 and 2-day intensives for $5,000. We quickly got out of debt within a couple of months. We made $500,000 in the next 12 months just doing these small intensive projects. And fast forward to today, I just did a brand up a couple months ago for $60,000 for a 2-day intensive. So it's a model that I really believe in. I've honed over the years, and it completely changed my business and my life.
Okay, I'm sold. Tell me more. Like that shift. And that was so kind of you to still give them severance. And I totally get I feel bad for letting them go. But you also see that what happened afterwards also. So let's talk more about like the behind the scenes, this shift that you took in your business, and really how this benefited your clients, your customer base.
Yeah. So what happened was a year prior, we were struggling then too, right? We were struggling the whole first 3 years of our business because I didn't know anything about what I was doing. So
Right.
a lot of trial and error. So a year prior, my business coach of mine, I had been complaining to him, I need to charge $30,000 for these projects. They take 6 months. I've got 2 employees. Like, this is just a lot of time. I need them to pay these prices. And my business coach, and I said, but everyone I'm talking to, they love me. They want to work with me, but they don't have $30,000. And this is so frustrating. Nobody has a budget. Nobody has a budget. And he said, all right, well, how much money do they have, Pia? And I said, well, they've got like $3,000, $3,000 is nothing close to what I need. And he said, well, these people want to hire you. What could you do for $3,000? And I said, well, we could make them something really cool for $3,000. They just have to get out of our way, right? Like, the reason we charge them so much is partially because this just takes us so much time. But if they would just take what we gave them, I would happily do like a decent sized project for $3,000. And so what we ended up doing was realizing, okay, how about we do a $3,000 one day, and you can have everything we build in one day, and the less pushback you give, the more you'll get. And that's how I set it up in the beginning. If you don't make any edits, we'll literally build you a full brand and website in a day. Like, Steve and I can do that. You just got to get out of our way. And so we started selling those, and we started selling them secretly, because when I made this, I didn't see it as a profitable thing. I saw it as a way to make some cash on the side while I'm trying to get these $30,000 clients. So we secretly sold this for a year. So come this fateful day in March of 2014, we looked at that thing and we said, that is really awesome. Like, we get to deliver the work actually that we want to deliver, because the clients don't change it. They don't edit it. We get to deliver it in a short amount of time. The project's done at the end. We don't have to do this ongoing management, which I hate. The clients pay in full upfront, and then it's done. And there's so many people around us who have $3,000 and have this need. let's just do that. So I am not exaggerating. We had that revelation. We let our employees go. It was like 2 weeks, and we changed our whole website. And I went back to all the outstanding proposals that I had that weren't getting back to me for these big price tags. And I called them up and I said, and of course you reach out to somebody who hasn't gotten back to you and they go, "Oh, I'm so sorry. We're still thinking." I was like, no, 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 no. I'm calling you to tell you, don't worry about it. I know you're not going to get back to me. Don't worry about it. I am no longer doing that. That proposal is no longer valid. I'm not going to do that project anymore. But we could do the same thing for $5,000 in a 2-day intensive. And they, what? We wanted to hire you. It was just too expensive. Now we can get it for so much less. And I said, yeah, the caveat is you just trust us. You just hire us because you want what we have and we're going to make it for you. And, you'll have a chance to tweak it here and there. But essentially you're saying, Pia and Steve, you know what you're doing. Please make it for me and I'll pay you $5,000. And I'm not exaggerating. They all said yes. That's how we got out of debt so quickly. All these proposals, all of those people said, deal, done. And that's when it really started to pick up. And I started to realize, oh my God, we really have something here. And all the work I had done trying to find these big clients, all of a sudden started feeding me clients because every time we did one, they told their friends. Everybody wanted this thing because everyone wanted something that was affordable, but really fast. And we already had the value and clout in the world because we had been charging these high prices because our work was really good. And that's all she wrote. That was the beginning.
Here's part of what I really like about this story is that you did something completely different. One, thank you, coach, for asking you that brilliant question. What can you do for $3,000?
So good.
Just go do that thing. And in a world where it's just like we're bombarded with information and it's like, but this, and here's that common phrase, but this is how we've always done it. Like, this is how it's always been done. Like, how could I do something in 2 days that normally takes 6 months? As somebody who has obviously had a numerous websites, I can tell you, like, if somebody told me it was going to take 6 months, it's just like, well, okay, like, let me think about it. I'll get back to you because I'm going to go work on this other strategy now, which is probably like building up your social media following or something. I want to acknowledge you for that.
Thank
Oh,
you.
and what was that like to do something completely different?
Part of the conversation that Steve and I had was when we were taking this really honest look at everything. It was all the cards were on the table. We had no money. There was nowhere to go but up. And I said, like, let's throw it out for a second and just say, like, what would be an ideal scenario? And Steve said, ideally, I just make the whole brand and website and then we just sell it to people. We don't even, there's no back and forth. They just take it. And that's when I started to go, okay, well, how could we get close to that? Maybe we can't get there completely, but what could we do to kind of simulate that situation? And that's essentially what we do now. And what I've realized over the years is that that's actually worth a lot more money, not less money, which is why I'm able to charge so much, because we do this upfront work to really understand the client. And there's a lot of, I guess, psychology involved in this process that builds trust with the client early on. It positions us as the leader and the authority, which is very important. The relationship has to be built on trust. And then essentially the client relaxes into the relationship and says they're happy to have somebody else tell them what it needs to be. And so those are the kinds of clients that hire us. And it's worth more money, not less, for the client to actually have less of an opinion in the project.
Let me just add that as somebody who has hired numerous contractors, even for my home, for reconstruction, for landscaping, it's like, so what do you think? And I love it when they say, I can do anything you want. And it's like, but like, to me, like that, I end up with nothing. I end up, all right, I'll just interview the next guy because I'm hiring you for your expertise. So I'd love to hear you talk a little bit more about how you position yourself as the expert very early on.
Yeah, such a good point. And I also hire people in all areas of my life. And I find it so frustrating when they ask that and, oh, we could do whatever. And I know the psychology behind that. They think this is what's helpful, or this is what people want to hear. No, I want to hear this is the best way to do it. This is how much it costs. This is when it will be done. I will pay you on the spot if me that clarity because you're
Yeah.
saving me time and energy and that is worth a lot of money to me. So the way that we position ourselves as the experts is the whole intensive process actually starts with a step one beforehand. It's something I call a lead product. Mine is called a brand shrink. That's my branded name. But when I train people on how to do this, I tell them, come up with your own name for this product. And instead of writing a free proposal, we sell the first step. We sell the lead product. The lead product replaces the free proposal, but it's nothing like a proposal. It is an in-depth interview where we ask the client a bunch of questions. They paid us to do this. And then out of that conversation, we write them a strategy brief that outlines exactly what they need to do in order to achieve the goals that they have. And the beauty of this process is, and a lot of people might hear it and say, okay, that sounds kind of like a discovery, kind of like a strategy. It is those things, but there's a very specific process that I think needs to be followed for this to end up where we want, which is that the client reads the brief. They feel so understood. They feel so seen. They have so much clarity and they go, there's only one person who can do this. It's you. That's the price. Great. Go do it. Very easy. It's not even
Mhm.
really a sale. They sell themselves into it. So this is the points that need to be hit is that the client needs to be really heard. And that comes from you as the expert asking really thoughtful questions and really thoughtful follow-up questions. Because in my experience, especially in websites or design or really anything where you're hiring somebody as an expert, experts tend to lecture and explain and try to educate the client into understanding why it's so valuable for them. And in my experience, when you ask really thoughtful questions and the person has to answer those questions and see where they don't have answers, that's where all the light bulbs go off and they realize what their problem is and where they need the help. And that's where we need people to be if we're going to then sell them a solution where we are able to deliver and solve their whole problem. So that builds trust and it builds a shared understanding of what's going on. Once we build that trust and have that shared clarity around what needs to happen, clients basically just back off and say like, great, go do it. Like, I don't, I see it. I get it. I want what you just explained and I don't know how to do it. So I'm excited that you're going to do it. And
Yeah.
that's really what I train my students on learning how to lead someone through that process and then have the confidence to say to a client, I got this from here. Like, you relax. I got it. And this is going to be amazing. And clients love that.
Okay, so I just wanna go back. First of all, like, I love that. So did you say that you charge for this? And then, like, they say yes. Is that you did say all right.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I love that. I remember once saying to my husband, God, he was working for a gentleman, small business that built recycling systems. And they were, I mean, the money that goes into these designs. And I said to him, why don't you just charge $10,000 for this proposal? Never been done. We can't do that. These customers will say no. I'm just like, then you give them the 10 grand off of for the final product. So if they're not losing any money, but you guys are losing money constantly because all they're doing is shopping for the best price.
Oh my goodness. So you nailed it. And absolutely, we apply the price of that first step to the second step because there's a lot of good psychology there too. They're not losing money, it's part of the
Hmm.
process. What I've also found is, to your point, they're shopping for the best price. And I actually think when people write a free proposal, it's not, well, obviously, it's not nearly as valuable as the essentially proposal at the end of this document, where you have taken the time to dig deep and actually uncover what they need, not just take what the client said at face value that they need. And I think that a lot of service providers get into trouble and get into projects that go on and on, have scope creep, get out of hand. The reason that happens is because the service provider writes a proposal based on the deliverables that the client thinks they need. When the client isn't the expert and doesn't actually know what they need, they may not even know their real problem. So if you don't take the time to truly understand that, you're going to go off in one direction that might not even be right. And halfway through the project, realize, oh my goodness, we actually needed this other thing and this isn't working. And oh, guess what? That's when the client doesn't pay you, like disappears, oh, I started working with a business coach and they showed me the light and now I don't even know if this website is the right thing. We're trying to avoid that, and they won't trust your advice unless they pay for it. So we need them to pay for this step.
Darn, this is making me rethink a lot of those discovery calls that I've done, and also comparing them to the ones that were really successful.
Yeah.
One more recently, I actually did send him a proposal. For some reason, he didn't pay for this, by the way, but for some reason, I was just like, this guy just needs to see in writing what his 3 different options were instead of me sharing them. And I sent it right away within 24 hours, and he answered it that night, and our follow-up call that was later that week
Mhm.
became our first session together in writing his keynote speech.
Nice.
So you really got me thinking here. So, all right, so now how do you go about, like, there's 2 things that are really interesting to me. Pricing this. I mean, you went from 60 down to 3 and 5. That's like a big gap. I'm curious to how you came up with that, besides the coach saying, "What can you do for $3,000?"
Mhm.
That, and how did you go from such a extended period of time to really fine tuning this, and it's like you in and out?
Mhm. So pricing wise, we had been selling very large projects for $30,000, which frankly weren't even profitable at 30,000 given how much energy and time we were spending. We did 3 because that's what people had. And then over the years, we increased it because we had so much demand, and I was basically looking for that perfect place where I was making the money I wanted at the price point that I was getting. So, as you raise your price, fewer people will say yes, but you'll make more money in less time. This whole process was also honing our process, getting better and better at it, becoming more valuable. So within a year, our $3,000 one day turned into a $10,000 one day. Once I realized we really wanted about $20,000 a month on average. That would pay for our life, our business, and our taxes. And that's a whole other conversation about how to price your services so everything is covered. But I realized that $20,000 was like a really healthy number to cover everything. And I said, if we could get our one day up to 10,000 and we spent a maximum of 5 days on each of our projects, that would be 10 days a month working on these 2 projects. We'd get our 20,000. We'd have the other 2 weeks a month on average to work on our business and do whatever we wanted. And that felt like a really nice, healthy place to be. I have since realized that that's actually a really good formula for anybody to figure out how much they should charge based on how long their projects should take. After we got to 10,000, I just kept raising it every so often. I'd sell a few, I'd raise it 1,000 or 2. Like I said, now our 2 days at 40,000 and our 3 days at 60,000. And it got there because I continued to reinvest all of the time that I was freeing up for myself into my authority. So now, we only do a few of them a year, and I have this other business I'm running now, but we do them occasionally, a couple a year, because I get people who are just super fans. They've read my book, they implicitly trust me, and they basically like bang down my door to do these. And I say, well, I'll do that. I love working with somebody who's a perfect fit and they're really bought in because I know Steve and I can make them something amazing. And I know it's actually not going to take us that much time. And they're going to be really easy to work with, which is always a joy for me. So, but that came with building authority to get back up and past our previous prices.
I think you're right that there's a lot of people out there who their pricing is based on what everybody else is doing, not knowing that there's so much behind the scenes, but that's smart, so smart to figure out, like, what exactly do I need to live comfortably, pay the taxes so the Mr. IRS is not banging on my door, and also not worry about next month. Worry about how am I going to pay, how am I just gonna pay all these bills? Can you, like, speak more on that? Because that really, I resonate with that a lot.
Yeah, well, I mean, one thing I really urge people to do is zoom out and not look at anything on a month to month basis. Really look at the year.
Mhm.
Because I know that a lot of, especially solopreneurs, consultants, speakers, they, they, we're all accustomed to this monthly salary thinking. So a lot of people say, if I could just have a steady 10,000 or a steady 20,000 a month, oh, that's the pinnacle of success. And I would say that's a job. I don't want a steady anything because if I have to work a certain amount to make a certain amount of money in a month and I want that steady, well, then I have to work that number of hours or those number of projects every single month of the year. And that's not really what I'm going for. I want to be able to I take the summers off. I want to be able to go away for 6 weeks at a time, which means I have to make that money not in a steady clip, but in large chunks throughout the year. And so what I recommend is that once you figure out what that number is, you you get to that price point, then as long as I get, for my clients, a couple, 12 clients a year, 24 clients a year, that's it. As long as I get 12 to 24 projects a year, I'm set. And then everything above that is profit, gravy, things that I can reinvest into my future. This is only possible if you are not living on cash. You need to have some capital or some savings, ideally both, so that you can manage cash flow going up and down. But I think you need to do that regardless if you're an entrepreneur, because you can never be sure as a solopreneur that you're going to you're going to hit this bullseye of steady income every single month. It's just not practical, and it will stress you out to no end. So way better just zoom out and think annually.
I really like that because that's so true. I mean, I was just starting to work on my taxes for last year, and my CPA is just like, I remember him saying, "You should look at your numbers every month." And you're making me think that, no, let's think yearly, because you're right. There are certain times of the year that I want to take off because I don't want to be working 12 months really hard. I'd rather have these pockets. Besides that, in the speaking world is not a 12-month a year. It is in cycles, like you're saying. All right, you planted a little seed about you have another little business.
My other business, oh, my
Yes,
business
your
train
other business.
my business training small branding agencies on this. So now it's funny because my book and the model that I teach is how to scale up profit and freedom and ease without employees. But I have 4 full-time employees and 10 part-time employees now because in order to train people at the highest level, be able to provide the kind of support and communications that doing something like that requires, well, I needed to build a team, which was a whole other undertaking for me that I wasn't really ready to do back in 2013. I was a terrible manager. I mean, I just had no experience. I didn't even know what I didn't know. I was the whole thing. I mean, in retrospect, now that I'm getting pretty good at it, oh my gosh, I was terrible at the time. No wonder that was so unprofitable. But now I think, in 2021, I had grown a lot. I understood things a little bit more, and I was ready to emotionally take on the fact that I'm not getting employees because I'm so overworked and I need someone else to. No, I'm getting employees to help me grow this business, and I need to be thinking of myself as a leader, as a coach to them, training them. Ultimately, it all falls on me. My responsibility is to teach, build the systems, coach them on building the systems, all of that. So I just wasn't even there. It wasn't even my radar 10 years ago, but now that's really what I focus on.
Yeah, you really do have to do the things that you're really good at and have other people do the things that you're not very good at or that you just shouldn't be doing or that you just don't enjoy
Mhm.
posting on social media.
But you have to be the leader. I see so many people outsource before they understand that they're still responsible for their business. And what I really think is dangerous is outsourcing something that you don't really understand to a low level person who's not going to solve your problem. You can't outsource a high level problem to a low level executing freelancer and expect them to if you're posting on social media and it's not working and then you outsource it to somebody for $20 an hour, they're not going to make your social media work. That's not how this
No.
works, right?
Yes.
Maybe a very high level strategic social media person maybe will figure it out for you, but you need to pay a lot for those experts.
Yes, yes, I 100% agree. You can't hire like a miracle worker. Like nobody's got a magic wand that's going to fix all of your problems. And you're right. If you don't know why you're on social media or what you're trying to accomplish, there goes, like it's about your goals and your intentions about why you are where you are. Brilliant, just brilliant. So, because my podcast is all about public speaking, and there's a couple of questions that I just have to ask because I see a lot of people on the internet saying, like, I'm looking for paid speaking events. I'm looking for events. And inside, when I read these, I'm thinking, like, go do your craft, go do your wonderful things. And I know because I've been on your website that you have a beautiful speaking page. Did you ever set out to be a speaker?
I first started speaking, same coach. He really planted all the seeds for me. Same coach. He said, "You need clients? You got to go speak." I said, "About what? Oh my gosh, who wants to see me? I've never done that before. I have stage fright." He's like, "You just got to go get in front of people. Like when you're on the stage, you're seen as the expert." I said, "Where am I even going to book anyone?" He said, "Just book it before you even figure out what it's going to be, and then we'll figure it out." And I did book something. And then I said, "Oh my gosh, I have no speech." He said, "Great, now we'll make one." And that's really how it started. And I did get a lot of great things from speaking in the early days, all for free. But just it forced me to level up my communication skills, my presentation skills. It forced me to take ideas that I was explaining here and there and put them into like a synthesized, interesting, entertaining presentation and then practice doing it in front of people, which, really helped me prepare for what was a few years later, starting to speak on camera, starting to show up on, this was before Reels. So when that stuff came out, starting to show up on YouTube, all of that. So I'm just such a fan uh, of speaking for all the things that it forces you to learn and all the things that it gives you and how it positions you as an expert. I, I I'm really excited for you to come on my podcast because I'm going to pick your brain so much about all of this stuff. I had somebody explain what it looks like to be a paid speaker to me, and I'm curious if you think this is accurate. She explained if you really want to get paid to speak and you want to get paid the big bucks, you've got to be a paid speaker, and that means you are speaking a lot, and that means you are traveling and you are flying places and you are in hotels a lot. And I said, "Oh gosh, I don't want to do that at all." I don't wanna do that at all. I am happy to get on a stage when it makes sense for me and it's, like, relatively convenient because I
Mhm.
live a life of convenience. I live in New York City, so there are opportunities here, and
A
I'll
lot
take them.
of opportunity
A
there.
lot of opportunities here, but I'm also because my audience is now so niche, I only take opportunities where I know it's, like, majority are my audience and everything else for now, it takes a lot of energy and I enjoy getting on a stage, but, like, looking for paid speaking engagements is not something I try to do. I
You want
get
me
invited and I do it, and I
you
like
want
that.
me to answer this question? Or
Yes, tell
do
me.
you want to wait?
Tell me. No,
All
no,
right.
tell me now, and then we'll
All right.
dive deeper, and everyone will have to listen to the episode of my
That's
podcast.
right. So Seth Godin lives in New York City,
Yes.
and he has a speaking fee for New York City because he
Mhm.
does not like to leave his family or get on an airplane. So his speaking fee is actually double if you want him to fly out to LA to speak at your conference. So he has the hoops
Right,
that you were going to have to jump through.
right.
So that's one way. Another way is, you designed an entirely new business based on
Mhm.
what you intuitively knew was right. So I don't think that that is the only way to build a speaking business, that you get to do it your way. You
Right.
also just say, and I say this over and over again, here's my limit. Here's how many times I am willing to speak, whether that's once a month, twice a month, 3 times a month. You get to decide. And once you hit that limit, it's like, I'm sorry, I'm booking into 2026. Would you like to book me now? And I gave this strategy to a client of mine in an industry that does not book the following year. And she was in the quilting industry, which is like a $7 billion industry. Who knew?
Mhm.
And she got booked out 3 years. She was fully booked for 3 years because of what I taught her what to say, which was, I'm sorry,
Wow.
I'm booked. Would you like to book me for next year?
Wow.
So
Okay.
your speaking business gets to be just like your other
I
businesses,
love it.
to look exactly the way you want it to, so it fits your lifestyle.
I love it. Well, way to take what I said and twist it back to me. I love that, Laurie-Ann. You're gonna
We're
tell
going
me
to,
all about this very soon. Yeah.
all right, before we end and we share with people like how they can find you, and I know that you have a wonderful, fun gift for everybody. What's one or two more gold nuggets that you just want to share with the audience?
Gosh, so many. I think one of the most important things for being successful in any space, be it speaking or agencies or your craft, your services, is just being unapologetically whatever you are presenting yourself as and looking for the opportunities to repel people. So I have experienced firsthand many times that the more you're able to repel certain people, the more you will magnetically attract your ideal clients. And it just makes everything so much easier. And it's hard to do because emotionally, I think a lot of us are people pleasers and we don't like the idea that somebody doesn't like what we have to say or,
Yeah.
thinks, oh, that's the wrong thing. And so we keep ourselves general or we keep ourselves a little too nice, but you end up just blending into the background with that. So I would say magnetically attract and repel are the things that we're going for.
Yeah, that's the way to do your business. That's the way to grow your business because you can't be Walmart. You can't be, actually, I should say, you can't be pizza. Not everybody is going to like you, and that's all there is to it. And you don't want everybody to like you. I mean, there's billions of people in this world. Just go out and help the people that you're here to help.
And even if you try to be liked by everyone, people will still not like you because
That's
some
right.
people just don't like anyone. Just don't even worry
Right.
about it.
Don't even worry about it. Don't even try for it.
Don't even try.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a wonderful conversation. I can hardly wait to come on your podcast and continue the speaking part of the conversation. But would you share with everybody like where they can find you and your special offer?
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Laurie-Ann. Yeah, this is really fun. I am on socials at Pia Loves Your Biz, B-I-Z, Pia Loves Your Biz. I'm mostly on Instagram and LinkedIn. And then I brought the audio copy of my book. You can absolutely purchase it on Audible if you want. It's Badass Your Brand, The Impatient Entrepreneur's Guide to Turning Expertise into Profit. I tell the details of that story of getting out of debt and exactly what our business looked like. And I put that at nobsagencies.com/in-demand. So you can just go download it for free if you want.
And that link and all her links will be down below. And it is a great book. I do remember getting it and really being re-inspired by it. And I'm down in Florida right now and I was rereading it on my flight down here. So definitely go and take advantage of your generosity. Thank you, Pia, so much.
Thank you.
And till next week, be in demand. Are you ready to leverage speaking as your best form of marketing? There are over 7,500 events looking for speakers every single day. Speaking positions you as the expert in the room, but you probably don't know where to start. So I created this great resource called the Directory of Places to Speak. This resource will help you get started today. So head on over to speakandstandout.com/directory to grab your free copy now. Don't miss this opportunity to be the expert speaking to audiences filled with your ideal clients.